Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by the movie Hangout. More Star Wars sequels are in the works. That's a topic of this video. Before I jump into this hilarious vision that Disney has for Star Wars, if you could go on over, click subscribe, comment, like, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so this article here was published on Screen Rant. Sometimes they're hit or miss. They're hit or miss. I mean, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. But this is an interesting topic because, you know, Disney bought Lucasfilm and the rights to Star Wars for like a couple $1 billion from George Lucas. Probably the biggest mistake any creator could make. And I know I mean, gosh, if somebody put $1 billion in front of me, like they had like 100 suitcases of money in front of me, would I take it versus give it up and keep the integrity of something that I put my entire life on? It's easy for me to say that I wouldn't, but you never know. Very few people who have ever existed are given that opportunity. But I can definitely say that the Star Wars episodes 4, 5, and 6, that is like the gold standard. And then you got the prequels 1, 2, and 3. That's like the silver standard. And then you got the newer sequels 7, 8, 9. That's like, I don't even want to say bronze. That's like aluminum. It's like trading aluminum. Uh, you know, there's so many problems with them on so many levels, and I don't want to sound like a Star Wars hater because I love Star Wars. I think it's a fantastic idea, even though a lot of the ideas are borrowed from older stories and movies. I still think it's creatively amazing, and I'm glad that George Lucas came up with it. And I think The Force Awakens has a lot of great things in it. I really do. I think The Last Jedi is a total disaster, and I think the the Rise of Skywalker is just kind of like a whatever film. But anyway, Disney, of course, they can't be done with the Star Wars saga because they've invested billions of dollars into this thing. So they got to keep cranking stuff out. Star Wars at this point, it's not art. It's more like, it's like a hot dog factory. They got to keep cranking it out, and you don't want to see behind the curtain how it's made. There's a lot of bad, stuff, a lot of garbage put into it, but they got to keep cranking out product, hoping that normies are going to keep forking over their cash. And, that's why I got to bring it up because I want people who aren't really, into storytelling to hear the other side of the argument and demand just better stories. So, Star Wars reportedly planning new post-sequel trilogy, Jedi Order project. So, we already defeated the Empire in Return of the Jedi. That was defeated. But they had to create another empire without calling it the Empire, right? Because honestly, Star Wars isn't Star Wars if you don't have Jedis, if you don't have lightsabers, and you don't have the Empire, right? And if you don't have Skywalkers, those are the elements you have to have in a Star Wars film in order for it to actually be a Star Wars film, or it's just going to be a regular space sci-fi movie. It's unfortunate, but kind of those are the boundaries of Star Wars. It's not limitless, but no story is. You just have to identify what those limits are and create things, color within the lines. But Disney hasn't been doing a very good job of that. So now they're going to create something called the Jedi Order because they've already destroyed the Empire, the First Order, now the Jedi Order. Lucasfilm is reportedly developing a post-sequel Star Wars trilogy that revolves around a revamped Jedi Order. It's been more than a couple of years since Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker hit theaters, supposedly wrapping up the Skywalker saga, or saga as they call it. For a while, it seemed like Disney wasn't interested in tackling stories after the Resistance defeated the First Order, probably because there's nothing else to say. But that may not be the case now. After Disney bought Lucasfilm, the House of Mouse didn't waste time developing a brand new trilogy. Of course they didn't. This excited fans. That's debatable. I think it excited bloggers, but I don't know about fans, especially after years of not having any Star Wars movies. 2015's The Star Wars A Force Awakens was generally well received. It was decent, but fans and critics were divided on The Last Jedi. Now, I'd say about 90% of people who love the legit Star Wars didn't like it. The normies were like, oh, whatever, it's an okay space movie. I would say if you're just going to say it's a space movie, it's like maybe a B minus, but for a Star Wars movie, it's like a D minus. Before Star Wars: A Rise of Skywalker even started production, it was already plagued with issues. Yep, original director Colin Trevorrow exited the film, while Lucasfilm scrambled to find a replacement. It also needed to find a way to work around Carrie Fisher's untimely death, which is really sad. If Disney would have been smart, they would have looked at the original cast and think, okay, gosh, our original cast is over 65, okay? Unfortunately, people do pass away. So their real opportunity was The Force Awakens. That should have been an ensemble piece, you know? It's like getting the Beatles back together, getting the Rolling Stones back together. You know, when they're on stage, you have them play together. You don't have them play individually. And then, you know, you might have only that one time to do it, but they didn't do it. Ultimately, the movie failed to deliver a satisfying Skywalker saga finale. That's true. Because of this, many presume that Disney isn't interested in telling stories after the sequel trilogy. However, that may not be the case. Former Vanity Fair reporter Joanna Robinson revealed the Ringerverse podcast that she hears whispers that Lucasfilm is actively developing a new trilogy that tackles a revamped Jedi Order. And so I personally, I believe that. I don't think it's just whispers. You see, Kathleen Kennedy, who is in charge of Lucasfilm, promised George Lucas. There's actually an interview where it has her sitting at a table next to George Lucas, and George Lucas is honest. He's signed the documents. He's like passing the lightsaber to Kathleen Kennedy, and he just asked her to kind of stick to the lore that makes Star Wars Star Wars. And Kathleen just kind of nods her head, and you can tell like she was half-heartedly doing that. Well, unfortunately, Kathleen Kennedy had her vision is she wants to remold Star Wars to fit her worldview, her rigid ideology, and it just doesn't work. It really doesn't. It changes. It's like somebody gives you, you know, somebody is a fantastic chef, and they come up with an amazing recipe for something. And everybody around the world says it's fantastic, it's amazing, it's revolutionary. And that chef, that master chef, sells that recipe to you. And you're not a master chef. You know, you're an okay chef, but you're not a master chef by any stretch of the imagination. But in your mind, you think you're amazing. And that master chef gives you this recipe to safeguard. And instead, you start replacing ingredients, you know, with kind of fillers and dye, you know, red dye number 3 and all these different things, sweeteners and everything. They're cheap. And before you know it, that dish is no longer what made it amazing. It's just kind of like a quickly consumed thing, and people just throw it in the trash afterwards, and they don't really talk about it after they've consumed it. And that's kind of what Disney Star Wars has turned into. It's really sad. I can't stand saying it. It's not fun. I wish I could do video after video about how Star Wars is like so cool and it's amazing and it's thought provoking and it's like philosophical in some ways. It'd be cool if it would have been great if Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker and The Last Jedi was kind of like an old, you know, Jordan Peterson thinker. You know, he wasn't, you know, but instead he ended up being like just this like self-loathing hermit, you know, that is just like glass is half empty, if the glass is even there type of person. It's just sad, but that's kind of what it is. But we're still going to talk about it because it's important. But anyways, what do you think? Are you excited that Disney is going to be developing a new sequel trilogy? Do you think that there's anything to really tell um, in regard to the Jedi or Star Wars, or do you think this story's already been told? They need to just leave it alone, and they need to go to other parts of the galaxy and tell stories. Comment below, let me know. And as always, if you want to get future rants, reviews, or original content, click subscribe. Later.